Let's bring in Brooke Goldstein, human rights attorney, as well as founder and executive director of the Lawfare project. Brooke, we appreciate you joining us. Unfortunately, these considerations and what's happened last night, this is an obvious anti-Semitic attack. Your initial reaction to hearing the news last night?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Obviously, I'm absolutely devastated. Not a day goes by where Jews are not being targeted and killed for being Jewish. And that's what this is. This young couple, Yaron, 28 years old, Sarah, 27 years old, shot point blank, killed for being Jewish. And you saw in an earlier clip, Attorney General Pam Bondi being asked, well, what was the motive? What do you think the motive is by the media? Like we don't know. The perpetrator shouted, "Free Palestine." He said himself he did this for Gaza. The motive is Palestinian, so-called pro-Palestinian advocacy, AKA the killing and genocide of Jews. They define it for themselves. It is not about politics. Pam Bondi also mentioned the Zaka volunteers who were picking up the body parts and the blood of the young couple that were murdered. Last night, I went to a Zaka fundraiser. These same volunteers picked up the blood and body parts of Jews killed for being Jews on October the 7th. Whether you're in Israel, whether you're on the streets of DC, or whether you're in Europe, Jews are being targeted and attacked. This is a civil rights issue. This is not a political issue. And you know who really killed this young couple? The media. The media spreading their blood libels, the United Nations, an illegitimate organization that has thus far been able to publish ridiculous blood libels, like the fact that claiming that 14,000 Palestinian babies are going to die within 48 hours. Well, obviously that was retracted, but it was republished by the New York Times, NBC News, Time Magazine, The Guardian, ABC News, The Independent. The media killed this couple by spreading blood libels, and that is the oldest trick in the book. The attempt to politicize and to use a foreign conflict or a blood libel to justify the genocide and terrorist attacks against Jewish people. This couple was going to get engaged. They were going to celebrate life. There was a woman just a couple days ago who was giving birth, on her way to give birth at a hospital in Israel, who was shot and killed by an Islamist terrorist. That is what we are dealing with, the two opposing cultures, one that values life and one that worships death. And we have a systemic problem within the United States because this death cult, the culture, the marriage of radical Islam and obviously Marxism. Now the shooter here, Elias Rodriguez, is actually believed to have affiliations with a very far left group called the Party for Socialism and Liberation. It is the marriage of radical Islam and the Marxist left, and it has infected America. It has infected our campuses. It has infected Western media, and we have a real systemic problem that has to be dealt with.
Okay, so Brooke, because of that infection, as you just mentioned, you posted on social media last night that the alleged shooter is a, quote, radicalized socialist communist who believed in armed resistance. So my question to you is, if there is an infection of people, like you say, like this, what is the answer to stopping future incidents like this and protecting the Jewish community? Just before you came on with me, we had a young man that talked about what he thought the answer was, sitting down and discussing. But if you're so far beyond sitting down and discussing and you cross that line, what then?
Well, I want to point out also what you said, the irony that the shooter came to an event where it was a multi-faith event where Jews and Muslims and different organizational leaders and religious leaders were getting together to figure out how to bring aid into Gaza that is not being stolen by the Hamas terrorist group. Now, the solution is to end hatred, to end Jew hatred in our educational system, which has been infected with billions of dollars coming from Qatar, to end Jew hatred, not just on our campuses, but our K through 12 educational system, to end Jew hatred in the media, and to ensure there are consequences when these blood libels are being spread. The United Nations has to be delegitimized. All of the organs that stem from the United Nations, all of its officials are illegitimate. They do not stand for the rule of law. Rather, they are manipulating human rights law. They're manipulating the organs of the international legal system for one purpose only: to delegitimize the Jewish state, to dehumanize Jewish people, to justify genocide. And this is really a story as old as time. And I'm furious, absolutely furious, that it's 2025 and we are still dealing with the same awful stuff. I truly believe that we can end Jew hatred in our lifetime, but the first step is to go into our educational system, to stop the foreign influence, to stop the globalization of the hate intifada that has come into our country, to enforce our laws, to enforce the Foreign Agents Registration Act laws, to enforce our domestic laws, to successfully be able to deport people who have been placed in this country to foment terrorism, to foment radicalization, and to end hatred in America. That is the only way.
It's going to take a lot of work, but we can do it. Brooke Goldstein, we appreciate your contacts and insight and expertise. Thank you for joining us.